All right. Hey, welcome to True North. If you're joining us online, welcome. I know that Skid looks a lot shorter and a lot younger, and he forgot his hat. And so I'm Blake, the Associate Youth Minister here at North Boulevard. And so I've been here for about a year, and so I get to do True North tonight and speak to you guys. But we're going to go ahead and silence our cell phones, make sure those are off. And then we're going to have a 4-minute party. And so I know social distancing is weird. And so if for your 4-minute party, you will just kind of bump some bows and try to go around and meet as many people as you can and try to meet some of our visitors. If you're a visitor tonight and you've never been with us, if you'll come up here and meet some of our students, and we can get you to fill out a form, and you get a gift card on us. You can get some ice cream on us. And so we'll go ahead and do our 4-minute party right now. Okay, so usually around this time we kind of have the principals of your schools come and visit. We're still talking about that possibility. We bring them here and we pray over them here in the filling station. We're still having conversations about that possibility and trying to see what that's going to look like for us here. And so just be kind of keeping that at the forefront of your mind. Maybe if you see your principal, just kind of say, hey, they're thinking about you. We just don't know when we're going to have you, and that kind of thing. Also, if you're watching online or if you're here and you haven't signed up for our emails and you haven't signed up for our texts, our emails give a lot of information, a lot of the information that we're about to go over right quick. So sign up for those. Go to mbyg.org, and it'll give you links to sign up for the emails and sign up for text. Liliana Huape is a person that we sponsor. And usually we are collecting money throughout the summer on Sundays to give her. And we realized that normally each student gives roughly $1 to Liliana. And if everybody brought $70 on a Sunday, every Sunday, we would have the exact amount of money, easily have the exact amount of money to get Liliana at the filling station, or at the City of Children. And so several teens already have talked to Skid or I and said, hey, we have saved the $1 that we would usually give, and here you go. Some other students have given us some other money. So you're able to do that. Usually in the month of August, what we do is at least for two Sundays, we have a high five Sunday where everybody brings $5 for Liliana. But since we're not meeting on Sunday, we're going to do that next week. So next week, we're going to go through and everybody just bring $5, and we'll have somebody walk around. Now tonight we kind of sent out, hey, make sure to bring $1, but we also know that people might have been already on the way here. So if you have a nickel, a penny, a dollar, we're going to have Jake Grubbs and Alex Picharas walk through with the Liliana things right now, and they're going to walk through and give you an opportunity to give to Liliana. The other thing that you need to know is for the month of September, we usually work with the European mission team where they print Bibles. And so for every Wednesday in September, what we're going to do is you come in, you bring some money, and we'll push it to there. We've already had one member at North Boulevard say, whatever you make in the month of September, we'll match it. And so know that that's coming up in the month of September. And perfect. Okay. So we're doing a little different. It's Blake's images of the past 7 days. It's kind of like the situation of, hey, I'll let you look at my answers, but make sure the teacher doesn't know that you took my answers. So Blake's images of the past 7 days. So there's a thing that Major League Baseball has been doing where because people can't go to the games, you can send in a picture and get your cutout made, and they put it there for the entire Major League Baseball season, which is like 60 games, and then they go into the postseason. So Mike Jones helped me take a picture, and I'm actually in the stadium. So if you're watching a Braves game and a ball's hit down the first base line, I am in the midst of all these people, and I'm right there in the very back with a black background. So you should, but I'm also behind this really cute baby, so I don't think anybody's going to notice me. But I'm in the stadium for the regular season. So, and then this is really, really cool, and something I saw on the internet. My mom's a teacher. My wife's a teacher. We have a lot of teachers at North Boulevard. But I also know that it's pretty scary going back to school in the midst of all this. And for younger kids in this first grade class, their teacher wanted to make it where it would not be as scary. And so what she did was she made each desk look like a car. And so each desk has plexiglass, much like you would a windshield, tires, a bumper, and then you can't see it on the picture, but the license plate is their names. And so I thought it was really cool that teachers are trying to make sure that in the midst of all this craziness, in the midst of this anxiety, that they're making it a lot easier for students. I also found this, which gave me a lot of anxiety. Apparently, I do not like mayonnaise whatsoever, but apparently Hellmann's decided that it would be even better and people would eat more mayonnaise if we made it in the shape of dinosaurs, which I love dinosaurs. I hate mayonnaise. And so what they did was what you do is you take a mayonnaise bottle and you squeeze it into this dinosaur, and then you can squeeze it out of the dinosaur. It's make mayo more fun. Take it on the go. It is the dino's puke. And then one thing that's really interesting, it says, mayo is addictive. Eat responsibly. I don't think that's true, but I just think that it's just it was a very bad idea. I just think this is a very, very bad idea. Also, so there's a church in New Orleans. I don't want to show this yet because I need to set it up. There's a church in New Orleans that has had a lot of trouble with people social distancing in their church. And so they're trying to make sure people social distance because it's the right thing to do. And so they realize we've got to figure out a way to make this a little bit better. So, case in point, these are pretty good. I have prepared a place for you. It's just not this pew. Jesus sat the 5,000 down in rows, but this is not one. Zacchaeus climbed a sycamore tree to get a better seat. This pew was not it. You will seek me you will find me when you seek me, just not in this pew. Keep seeking. Remember when the Lord put a flaming sword at the entrance of the Garden of Eden so Adam and Eve couldn't go there? Flaming sword can also be translated to blue tape. And then lastly, picture of the past 7 days, image of the past 7 days. Monday or Tuesday, we had the seniors over to Skid's house and got to pray over all of them. And then Thursday, I had them over to a place that's very special to us, very special to these seniors, and got to kind of reminisce before we leave. Nico's not quite prepared yet, but he's getting there. And so we're really excited for them. And so be praying over them and be praying over the Skidmores as Skid and Miss Melissa are moving Annabelle in right now as we speak. And that should be our Blake's images of the past 7 days. So yeah. It's exciting. Okay, so there are some people that received Corny Awards, which is our award in the MBYG. It's kind of like the Dundies. It's something you do funny. It's something that stood out. And there were two people that were not at the Fireworks Palooza to be able to receive their Corny. This is the first person we kind of told you at Fireworks Palooza took it upon their self. We'll try to hide it a little longer. They took it upon their self because we weren't having kids camp. They wanted to have their own camp. And so the Camp Director in Training Award goes to Caitlin Clements. So come get your Corny. We'll act like people are taking pictures of us. All right, great. Thank you. Caitlin, good job. Okay, we also have one more Corny. This Corny, what didn't happen, well, okay, let's be honest. Summer, we never really knew when summer was. We just kind of had spring break and then school started. So summer is gone for a long time and we could try to decide it. So this person probably got to understand Zoom a lot better than everybody else because she had to figure out how to use it and what backgrounds to use and what backgrounds not to use. And so the grass is greener on the other side, Corny, goes to Virginia Clements. Here's your Corny. Virginia's not excited. She's not smiling behind her mask, I promise. All right, thank you, Virginia. She is really not excited about that at all. Okay, so listen, we talked about Shark Week. We're gonna have another Shark Week trivia game for nobody's excited, but we're going to try to do it. Yeah, okay, there we go. We're going to do Shark Week trivia. Now, look, we realized last week that we did A, B, C, and D, and that's kind of hard to use with hands unless you know sign language. So we've changed it. It's all 1, 2, 3, 4. So everybody stand up. How this will work is you get one miss. These are a little bit easier. You get one miss. After your one miss, you've got to sit down. Now remember, it's a little bit easier to cheat this way. So God's watching, okay? All right, here we go. First question. The 1975 film that starred a giant man-eating shark, great white shark, was either number 1, Sharknado, number 2, Jurassic Shark, number 3, Jaws, or number 4, Finding Nemo. Okay. Everybody got their number locked in? Here we go. The answer is Jaws. Okay, awesome, great. Great. All right, next question. Which is the largest of all the sharks? Is it 1, a great white shark, 2, a whale shark, 3, a bull shark, 4, a tiger shark? Okay, what is the biggest, largest of all the sharks? The answer is a whale shark. Okay, great. All right, question number 3. Shark Week began airing on the Discovery Channel in what year? 1492. I'm just going to give a hint. It's not that one. Number 2, 1776. Number 3, 1941. Or number 4, 1988. 1941. I might have said 1944. 1941. Okay. The answer is 1988. I don't know that anybody... Wow, okay. Some people have missed some. All right, here we go. What are baby sharks called? Is it number 1, pups? Is it number 2, minnows? Is it number 3, sharklings? Is it number 4, cubs? And the answer is number 1, pups. Okay, I think that was in last week's. All right, what does the hammerhead shark use its unusually shaped head for? Is it 1, hammering nails, 2, trapping stingrays, 3, measuring width, 4, playing soccer? The answer is number 2, trapping stingrays. Which iconic filmmaker was at the helm of Jaws? Was it number 1, George Lucas, number 2, James Cameron, number 3, Steven Spielberg, or number 4, Peter Jackson? Gets a little tougher. The answer is Steven Spielberg. Okay. All right. Okay, here we go. Next question. Soul Surfer is a film about which person who was attacked by a shark? Number 1, Laird Hamilton. Number 2, Bethany Hamilton. Number 3, Martin Brody. Number 4, Kelly Slater. All right, lock them in. Lock them in. The answer is Bethany Hamilton. What is the name of the great white shark in Finding Nemo? Is it number 1, Marlin? Is it number 2, Chum? Is it number 3, Bruce? Is it number 4, Anchor? The answer is, lock them in, Bruce. Next question. What is the average lifespan of a shark living in the wild? 2 to 3 years, 12 years, 150 years, or 4, 20 to 30 years. This one's a lot tougher. All right, the answer is, lock them in, 20 to 30 years. Whew. All right. Here's the tiebreaker. Now, granted, there's a ton of you standing up. So, how many teeth does a great white shark have? So, find a person next to you that's standing up and tell them so that if you stand up after this is up, we can call you a cheater. I won't call you a cheater, but your friends may. Okay. Everybody lock in your answers. How many teeth does a great white shark have? The answer is 300. All right, if you were really close, stay standing. Okay. All right, this is great. I just want to see who stays standing. So great, awesome, congratulations. You guys were very close. You can have a seat. Thank you. Great job. Okay, so we've been doing our pray day for the last 8 months. For the 12 months, 52 weeks, 366 days because it's leap year, we have been having people pray over the MBYG throughout the year. Again, these are the people that prayed for us last week. These are the people that are praying for us this week. Notice Tuesday and Wednesday are open. And so there's a table back there. There's a rectangle table on the way out. I think Alex Pacharez and Hope Hutchins will be back there. On the way out, make sure to sign up for a day. If you're watching online and you want to sign up for the next coming months, just send me a text, look at your calendar and say, here's the day I want to do, and we will try to work you in. But it's important to us that we have somebody, a different person, praying every single day. So we're trying to make sure that we're not having people repeat because it's really, really awesome to watch and know that people are praying for you every day, especially when you're going to school and you've got all this stuff going on in your lives. So that's a really, really awesome thing to know. And it's really great to have people, even in our church, that may not be back here with the MBYG, but also people that are back here in the MBYG praying for us every day. These are the cards. So for some of you, we've been mailing these cards to you. So if you have this card, fill it in, bring it back so we can put it on our board. If you have had a pray day but not gotten a card over the past several months, in the first song during worship, we'll let you come up and get a card and fill that out and then get it to either Alex Pacharez, Jake Grubbs, or Hope Hutchins, or Miss Vicky, or to me, and we can make sure that those get where they're supposed to go. Okay. If you're a 7th grader and you were not here this past week and weren't able to get your 7-Up bottle, you also will have the opportunity to come up and get a bottle during worship. And I think last week was... I really, really enjoyed worship last week, and I really, really enjoyed just getting to sing with you again. I think outdoor service has been really great, and we get to sing with our groups and clusters of people, but we don't get to sing as the MBYG very much since March. And it's even it's really cool tonight. Chamberlain, who's an alumni of the MBYG, is going to lead worship for us tonight. Because that is not my spiritual gift. And so somebody that does have a spiritual gift of singing and worshiping and does it really, really well is going to get to lead us into worship tonight. We have a lot of those that are on our prayer team. And so if you are on our prayer team and you want to stand up and give others the opportunity to come pray with you, you can do that. But just know and please be reminded of social distancing rules of just trying not to, maybe don't lay hands on one another, but try to keep social distance while you're praying for one another as we're still trying to figure out social distancing and kind of how that works. But we're going to give it over to Chamberlain and let him lead us into a time of praise. Yes. Well, those of you tuning in online, if you were expecting to see Skid, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Skid is... currently at Lipscomb, helping Annabelle move in. And so my name is Blake Boggs. I am the Associate Youth Minister here at North Boulevard. As of tomorrow, I'll be celebrating my first full year here with you guys. So that's exciting. Yeah. So it's pretty crazy to have been an intern for 2 years and then be here for a full year, full time. And the craziest year of our entire lives to be here, a full year this year. So what I first want to do is I want to give you a chance, because I know you haven't seen everybody for a while and you don't get to reminisce and talk about things. And so what I want you to do is for the next couple of minutes, I want you to either share your favorite movie with the person next to you or a story that really, really resonates with you. So your favorite movie or a movie that resonates with you, or any of those things, your favorite story in movie form or in book form, okay? So go. Okay. So one of my favorite things, one of my favorite Twitter threads, okay, is when people have a Twitter thread that says, explain your favorite movie in one sentence. Jimmy Fallon did this with a couple people on the Tonight Show, and he would say, all right, I'm going to give you the summary of a movie in one sentence and see if you can guess what it is. So now I want you to take a moment to take the story that you just told the person next to you and try and find a way to cut it down into one sentence where it makes sense and that they know exactly the movie you just told them about, okay? So take a moment to try to cut it down to one sentence. Okay, so let's see if this works. I know of one person that may get this. Okay, so Molly, tell us the sentence of your movie.
Do I have to yell it?
No, you can tell me and then I'll say it.
Two people fall in love over anonymous letters but hate each other in real life.
Okay, two people fall in love over anonymous letters but hate each other in real life. Lizzie, do you know what movie it is? You've Got Mail. That's Lizzie, my wife's favorite movie. Okay, Clark, you've got a sentence, okay?
A man gets stuck on an island, but when he comes back, his girlfriend is married.
Okay, man gets stuck on an island. When he comes back, his girlfriend is married. Jack? Castaway. Okay, great. Okay, so see, we can do these. Okay, let me try one. Entrepreneur modifies fossils into living monsters that terrorize people. Jurassic Park. Okay, great. So see, we all know stories, and in some ways, in one sentence, we all know the same story. In the early 1990s, a director by the name of Ron Howard. For those that are wiser in the back of the room, I learned that Ron Howard was on the Andy Griffith Show last week. So, for instance, Skid and I were having a conversation about Opie, and he's like, "Oh, it's Ron Howard," and I was like, "Oh, from Arrested Development." So that's kind of where the age gap. All right. But in the early 1990s, Ron Howard and his entertainment group went to a bidding war on the rights of a book that had not been published. They had only been given 10 pages of the book. This book is 400 and something pages long, and they were given 10 pages. So they essentially got the sentence of the story. So Ron Howard and his company, his entertainment company, won the bidding rights for Apollo 13. Apollo 13 is a fantastic movie, but what it is based on a true story. In 1970, NASA was sending these three astronauts, Jack Swigert, Lovell, and one other guy, I can't remember his name right now. But they sent these three astronauts to space, hoping to reach the moon again. But on the way on this exploration mission, while they are in space, you need to know, one, because the United States of America had been to space already, people were like, so what? Like, we're going to the moon again? So network television was not covering any of it. There's a scene in the movie where Tom Hanks is Jim Lovell, and they're filming, and they're doing this whole thing about, like, this is what it looks like to eat in space, and this looks... And everybody in Houston is going, should we tell them? Should we tell them that nobody is watching this? Nobody is seeing this. So nobody's watching them go to space because they feel like, we've been to the moon, we've done this before, we're doing it all the time, we're not going to watch this. On the way to the moon, as they're traveling through space, there's an explosion that happens on the outside of their spacecraft and starts to deplete the spacecraft. As they say in the movie, the spacecraft is bleeding to death because the oxygen is flowing out of the spacecraft, and they're going to, if they don't do something soon, they're going to die of carbon dioxide poisoning. That's the story. They got 10 pages of it. And Ron Howard, as he and Tom Hanks did more and more research, said, we're just going to stay true to the story. There's enough drama, there's enough suspense that if we just film this exactly how it is, people will go and people will see it, and it made $355 million in the box office. Ron Howard, the director, it was said Complex.com has a list of the best based on a true story movies. Apollo 13 is in the top 10. And a lot of it has to do with Ron Howard. Ron Howard trying to figure out a way, hey, if we hang people and we use wires and green screens, this movie's going to look really bad. They also had the opportunity to go to Huntsville, Alabama, and go to the Space Center and see all these different archived films and footages. And he said, you know what? If we use that, it would be hard to cut that into being the movie, and it's going to look really weird. I think we can make camera shots that make it look just like it was in the movie. So Ron Howard and Tom Hanks wanted to make sure that they could make this look just like the story. So they would have Jim Lovell, who was still alive, because in the end they survived this movie. Sorry, spoiler alert, it happened in 1970. In this movie, they had Jim Lovell come in and said, these are all the buttons I would push. So when Tom Hanks in the movie is being Jim Lovell and pushing buttons, it's the exact buttons Jim Lovell was pushing in that moment. So Complex magazine said, it takes a very talented director to keep you on the edge of your seat knowing how the story ends. They asked Ron Howard in an interview, what was it like filming something that was based on a true story, because Apollo 13 was the first movie that he had ever done that was based on real events. And he said, well, I came to the realization that if we had made this movie up, people would boo us out of the theater. But because it's real and it's true and it happened, we don't have to make any apologies. One of the crazy things that Ron Howard did to make sure the movie looked realistic was they got on a thing called an AC-135 for what they called it. It was the vomit comet. So they would get on this plane, they'd take off, and the plane would fly in parabolas. For somebody that's not a math person, it just looks like a U. and it would fly up and down. As they would reach the peak and start coming down, you would feel like you were defying gravity and start floating. So anytime in the movie that you see their full body flying and pulling through tunnels and showing you the spacecraft that they had built on that aircraft, that's how they did it. There's a scene where in every scene where they're in the spacecraft and they're trying to figure out, Tom Hanks would yell, "Line," because he would forget it. Instead of reading the script, they read the actual transcripts from what the astronauts were saying. The word that the line that everybody knows from that movie is, "Houston, we have a problem." The actual line is, "Houston, we have had a problem." They took one word out. Because to Ron Howard, it was that important to showcase a story that had happened and was real, and they didn't need to make up all this other nonsense. Speaking of nonsense, a guy that was 23 years old went and saw the movie when they were showing it, to public to see how the public would perceive it. 23-year-old wrote on this card, because you had to fill out a survey, and it says, the ending, thoughts on the ending. The back of the card, Ron Howard in an interview talked about reading this card, and the card said, "Just more Hollywood nonsense. Those guys never would have survived." And Ron Howard started laughing and was like, "Wow, I guess we did a good job." In a pre-release, they invited all astronauts. Anybody that has served and worked in NASA got to come see the movie. Buzz Aldrin, who got to see the moon, was like, "Where did you get that footage? Like, where did that come from?" And Ron Howard didn't have the heart to tell him that it was all original. They had never done that before. Another movie in the 1990s is Forrest Gump. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, okay, Forrest. The story of Forrest Gump just kind of, you feel like you're along for the ride. Like it just kind of happens to you, and the whole time you're thinking, this guy got to do everything. He was at everything. It was like he got into Apple before Apple was big, and now he's a millionaire. Like everything that needed to happen worked for Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump. And so at the beginning of the movie, the feather floats in and you see him sitting, waiting for a bus. Now, I watched this movie recently, and I started to notice that certain things that were significant in the life of Forrest Gump, he only told to specific people. So just bear with me because I'll show you what I mean. The first person he sits next to is an African-American nurse, and the first line that he says in the whole movie is, "Those look like comfortable shoes." And she responds with, "My feet hurt." And he says, people can remember what they got for their first Christmas, what they got for this, what they got for that. But I think if I think real hard, I can remember my first pair of shoes. Well, she's a nurse. So she's in the medical profession, and Forrest Gump talks about the braces on his legs that were helping him to correct polio. And so you start there. He gets his braces on his legs. He then miraculously runs away from bullies, and they all fall off. And then he gets a scholarship to return kicks for Bear Bryant at the University of Alabama. And then it comes all the way up to the last thing that he really talks to her about is the desegregation of schools at the University of Alabama. What it was like when he was there, which she would have related to because she would have been hoping for the desegregation of schools. There's a young lady who's about Forrest's age. She's the next to sit down. She's got a young son. And they talk about things that happened in culture with the Kennedy assassinations, the Martin Luther King assassinations. She even says, while he's talking to her, "I remember where I was when that happened." And they go on to talk about the things that have affected both of their lives, specifically from their perspective. Then you have this older man, this older lady, wiser man and wiser lady. And he talks about war stories with this older guy because he would have been about the age that he either served in World War II or he was in the Vietnam War. And so Forrest tells all about being in the war and his being a war vet and going to play ping pong. And then it kind of turns into, because of the death of his best friend Bubba, he goes and he starts the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company and tells all of this and how his life got to this way because that guy probably was a businessman. And at that point in the movie, that guy says, I'm sitting next to the CEO of the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. I can't believe it. And he gets up and leaves. And so it leaves Forrest and this older lady. And at this point in the movie, Forrest Gump talks about losing his mom and the events that took place after, of where he just didn't know what to do, so he ran for 3 years. He talks about Jenny returning, the love of his life, and how that went down. And I mean, she is in tears most of the time that he's talking. Stories matter, okay? Like, the ability for us to relate matters, because at some point, everybody got really excited to talk about Forrest Gump. Some of you got excited to talk about Apollo 13. Some of you got excited to talk about your favorite movies and narrow them down to a sentence, because stories matter to us. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has 20-something movies, and they've made worldwide $8.5 billion. With 23 stories. And the movie that got the most money out of all of them was Endgame. The one where it was the finale of all of the certain people. I'm not going to spoil that one if you haven't seen it, because it's pretty good. And because I love you 3000, so I wouldn't want to mess it up. But the last movie, and that was a movie that everybody felt like they had to go see, because if they didn't go see it, then they would be left out of conversations, and they didn't like their FOMO, so they went and saw this movie and was like, I have no idea what's going on. And so they went and saw it and felt like they could go and talk about it for time and time again. But just like Ron Howard, just like Forrest Gump and the Russo brothers and people that make film, we have our own stories to tell. First and foremost, we have the story of the gospel. But even then, we have our own personal stories of how the gospel interweaves into our own lives. So I want to talk about that tonight. It's what I'm calling Mark 5 moments. Skid has his sycamore tree, so I thought, oh, what's going to be my thing? What's going to be my thing? My thing is Mark 5 moments. If you've been in my 7th and 8th grade class, you've heard this. Because Mark 5 moments matter. Mark 5 moments are in moments of doubt, in great doubt, in moments where you don't believe that there is a God, or you're questioning if there's a God at all. These are the moments where you have so vividly experienced the presence of God that whatever this doubt is and whatever this question is, you at least have this one thing that you can say, this was real, this was true, and I'm not going to mess this up, because that really did happen. So one, Mark 5 moments are for yourself. Second, Mark 5 moments are for the other people that you're around in your community. And I mean community as in Murfreesboro, I mean community in your school, but I also mean in your community of friends and community of people of faith. Because Mark 5 moments are the kind of stories that if I say, because I've said this before to myself and heard some of your stories and some of the things that have happened to you and how God has worked in your lives, and I've sat there and said, I don't know that I see God in my life, but man, that student shared something that I see God in their life, and I can hold on to that. Mark 5 moments spur each other's faith on. They encourage each other's faith. My strength will be strong. My faith will be stronger because you've shared a Mark 5 moment. Your faith may be stronger because you've heard a Mark 5 moment from somebody else. So then the question is, well, where do we get Mark 5 moments? Well, Mark chapter 5. Jesus heads to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, to the region of Gerasenes. And you need to know, just so that you can put yourself in context of what his disciples are thinking and what the world is like at this point in Mark chapter 5, across the other side is what it is usually referred to. The other side of the Sea of Galilee is a place that's very pagan. This is the kind of place that if you're a first century Jew, you don't end up there you're not there on purpose. Like if you end up on the other side of the Sea of Galilee, you somehow accidentally got there. Because there's so much sin, there's so much this is a place where pigs are usually raised. So for a Jew, you were like, there's no way. So to put it modern day terms, this would be like Las Vegas. And I'm not talking about like Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas. I'm talking like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, Vegas. Wherever your mind goes to that is the kind of place that the disciples and Jesus are going to. So when Jesus got out of the boat and a man with an impure spirit came to the tombs to meet him, this man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. And he shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? And in God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." And when Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. So a large herd of pigs were feeding on a nearby hillside, and the demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them." And he gave them permission. He gave them permission. The power of Jesus, the authority of Jesus, gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in a town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. And when they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. And as Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him, and Jesus did not let him, but said, "Go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in Decapolis, which is the region, 10 cities, how much Jesus had done for him. And all the people were amazed. So Mark 5 moments have generally three acts, and I know it's a big generalization, so just bear with me. There are three acts that happen in Mark 5 moments. The first is there's a coming to Jesus moment. Now, like growing up, you might have had coming to Jesus moments with your parents. This is not that kind of thing. This is coming into the presence of God, physically, whether it's mentally, whether it's spiritually, coming into the presence of God so that you may in turn get a chance to meet Jesus. And so the demon-possessed man does this in verse 6 because when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him, even with a legion of demons, which is 2,000 to 6,000 demons inside this one person, even knowing that that's going on inside of him. He's cutting himself, so that's rock bottom. And in this moment, he says, "I'm going to run and fall at the feet of King Jesus." And he got to experience Jesus. There's going to be a come to Jesus moment. Like it has to happen for you to experience Jesus. Like you have to mentally be looking for, you have to physically be putting yourself in situations and opportunities for God to get at work at you so that you can experience the presence of God. And so, demon-possessed man comes, and then Jesus gives him permission in verse 13, and the impure spirits come out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 of them, rushed down the steep bank and were drowned. Verse 15, when they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Skid and I have been talking a lot about what does the quarantine, what does 2020, what does COVID look like for us moving forward? Because I recognize, and I have fallen into the category that there are times where us coming to Jesus is just because we're going to Impact, or we're going to kids camp, or we're going to Mexico, or we're going to Shiloh. And those are the places that we experience God. Those are the experiences that we feel the presence of God. And so now that those things have been taken away, how do we experience God? And in what ways on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, have we been seeking out the presence of God? Because I know I was locked in a house too. It's hard to find the presence of God in your bedroom 24 hours a day. We have to put ourselves in situations and physically, mentally, or spiritually put ourselves in a mindset that say, I'm going to look for God where he is. Because we've often said that the 51 weeks are going to prepare us, that 1 week is going to prepare us for the next 51 weeks when we come home. But in reality, if we're being really, really honest, what we've been doing is using the 51 weeks to hope and pray and get excited for that 1 week that we're going to have in the summer, which now is like 104. I'm not a math major, so I don't know. But I think it's like 104. Maybe it's 114, I don't know. But that's the reality. And honestly, if we're being really honest, like it could be another 52 weeks. Because we're going back to school, but the world still feels like something is lacking. We're missing. Like we're sitting in True North wearing masks. That's weird. Who would have thought? But our experiences that we usually have with the presence of God are changing. And are we prepared for that change? So you have to come to Jesus to be able to experience Jesus. And then once you experience him, you're going to proclaim him. And you're going to talk about it. Like, Mark 5 moments in my own life. 3 years ago when I came to Winterfest, and I find out, as we're pulling into the hotel parking lot, that my dad is going to have quadruple bypass surgery, open heart surgery. And for the first time in my life, I have to really say prayers and pray for somebody that I love and hope that he will be healed. The first time in my entire life that was a reality, and I was crying in the back of the conference center in Gatlinburg. One, because I just met you guys. I didn't know any of you. Two, I was supposed to be there all weekend. And three, all my family's in Atlanta, so what did I do? So we shared in the convention center that night what was going on in my life. And we got really close really fast because for the first time in my life, I'm not only just praying for the first time in my life for somebody I love, I had all of you helping me pray those prayers. And there are moments that night where some of you came up to me and changed my perspective of faith and changed how I prayed. And in my dad now, who's alive and well, because of his experience, will happily show you the doctor's work. He'll happily show you the scar that he's got. But what he really wants to talk to you about, what he really, really wants to get to the bottom of, is telling you how God has healed his heart and changed his heart. Because here's the reality. When you experience Jesus, like when you really come into the presence of God, like you got to tell somebody. Like that is really, honestly, like that's what this book is. Like, do you realize, like, this is just a whole, one Mark 5 moment and then a bunch of other moments where God showed up, and before they wrote it down, they just told people. They just went and said, hey, Molly Spade, listen to how the presence of God showed up. Like, I heard this story from Moses, and I got to tell somebody. Like, he had a burning bush. Can you believe that? He said it was the presence of God. Go tell, we got to start talking about this. And then eventually technology came too, where scribes got together and through the divine inspiration of God wrote down what we have as a Bible. And so not only do we have Mark 5 moments in our lives and in our stories and in our testimonies, we literally get to pick up a book that shows where the presence of God showed up for other people. When you talk about the second part of Mark 5 moments, of your Mark 5 moment is going to make my faith stronger, Like, this Mark 5 moment is going to make my faith stronger. Because for groups of people throughout the years, throughout this whole book, when they needed the presence of God, he showed up. And they talked about it. Because if they hadn't, it wouldn't be here. So the demon-possessed man, as Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. This is one of the craziest parts of this whole story, personally. Because every other time that you meet somebody that wants to follow Jesus, there's a stipulation, right? Like something's going on in that person's life that's preventing them from following Jesus fully. One guy comes up and says, hey, Jesus, I want to follow you. Like, how do I follow you? Well, come on. He's like, well, my father died. I need to bury him. He's like, let the dead bury their dead. The guy's like, well, I can't follow you. You got another guy that asks some questions to Jesus and says, I want to follow you. Jesus says, well, you got to sell everything. The guy's like, well, Jesus, that made it really difficult. So he doesn't follow him. Every time there's something that's preventing somebody from going. And in this instance, there is nothing preventing this guy from going. And Jesus did not let him go with him in the boat. Because in Mark chapter 5, the ministry of Jesus, one, hasn't blown up very big. So he's still starting his ministry. And it's also in a place that wouldn't have known Jesus. And people are asking Jesus, please leave. Like, there's something crazy about you. You've got some Holy Spirit inside of you. You need to go. And so Jesus tells this man, go home to your own people. The people that know you. Your families, your friends, your church, your community. Go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how much mercy he has had for you. See, what doesn't happen is there's no D group. Like looking at Scripture, there's no D group. Jesus and the demon-possessed man don't have a D group. And he says, all right, go do your thing. There's no true north. The demon-possessed man doesn't come to true north, hears what he wants to hear, and then leaves. Other than the demon speaking on behalf of this man, you really don't have an introduction of, hey, I'm Jesus, what's your name? Jesus gives him one command. He tells him one thing. After healing him, he says, go home to your own people and let them know how much the Lord has done for you. Okay, so somebody says, well, hey, that sounds like a really cool thing, and I can't wait to hear everybody else's Mark 5 moments, but I don't really want to share any for me, or maybe I don't have any, or I just don't want to really know how to talk about it, how to tell it. Well, here's the concern. The concern is not if you're talking in the right ways about God right now. This is not the concern. It's not how you're talking about God that's the concern. The concern is, are you talking about God at all? Are you taking moments in your life where the presence of God showed up, and are you proclaiming those into the world? Because we can ooh and ah at Forrest Gump, but there's not a lot of times that we're oohing and ahhing of people sharing their testimony. Often, when this happens, when they share their Mark 5 moments, we say, that's really great. I really like their story, but my story's not that. In October of last year, there was a guy named Tyler Moon. Tyler Moon was 25 years old. He used to be a college football player. And so he says in an interview, before the race, my name originally on the bib was just Tyler Moon. It was Tyler Moon 23409. But one day I thought it was from God, and that it should be a profession of faith, and so I changed it to Jesus Saves, so that another runner or someone in the audience would see it and know that Jesus saves us for eternity. So on race day, on October 6th, a Sunday morning in Minneapolis, Minnesota, he felt really good after eating the breakfast that he usually ate during training. He put on his orange Wheaties t-shirt, pinned his bib, his racing bib to his shorts, and he said, I've been looking forward to this race for a really long time. He's a former college football player, and he was running 8-minute miles, and into his eighth mile, he collapses, cracks his head on the pavement, and he's going into a full cardiac arrest. He's having a heart attack in the middle of the race with 2 miles to go. At 25 years old, ex-college athlete. And a man who was a registered nurse watched him collapse and ran up to him, and his name was Jesus. So Jesus did the things that he knew to do. He started chest compressions and making sure that he was stable, and more medical professionals that were running this race got it with Jesus, and they helped him until the ambulance arrived, kept him breathing. And so Moon said in the interview, because he survived, still adjusting, going through cardiac arrest, a concussion, and several facial fractures, that he was grateful. He said, when I originally put Jesus Saves on my racing bib, I was hoping that it would help people at the race and in Minneapolis. He said, I had no idea how far it would go and how it would impact the world. And that's just something I never expected. But God's plans were way greater than anything that I could ever think of. I've been here for a year. When I first moved here in August, people started coming up to me and telling me that there were these things called colorblind viewers. As someone who's colorblind, this is amazing. I am waiting until fall to go to this, because here's the thing. I've never seen a sunset like you all have. I've never seen a sunrise like you all have. And it always feels really uncomfortable to say this in the presence of church people, but I've never seen one of the promises of God in the form of a rainbow. Like people will all the time be like, oh, look at that rainbow. And when I was younger, I would just kind of nod and be like, yeah, it looks great. I had no idea what they're pointing at. I didn't really know that rainbows were real. I thought it was just something we drew in elementary class. And so people told me about this. And so what this is what is written on the viewer. This viewer is outfitted by the state of Tennessee with innovative Enchroma lenses designed to alleviate red-green color blindness. So being colorblind, this is going to get very scientific, and I'm going to do my best, but here we go. So buckle up. Being colorblind, you have rods and cones in your eyes. You have rods and cones in your eyes. I do not. So I'm missing the rods and cones that allow me to see color efficiently and correctly as most people that see color would see it. So what Enchroma, who makes sunglasses, what their technology does is in their lenses, they somehow have found a way to inject rods and cones into the lenses of their sunglasses. So what it's doing for most people is doubling your cones, which has no effect on a normal person. But for somebody that doesn't have colorblind, by doubling the rods and cones in their eyes, the cones that don't work, the light comes through and catches the ones that do work. And so I thought about putting a video of somebody wearing colorblind glasses and showing you all kind of how it works, but I weep every time I see it. So I was like, we're not going to do that for the first time. So maybe later. You can go on Facebook and find those. But then there are these. And I've heard how beautiful falls in Tennessee are, and especially in East Tennessee. And these are at several places. You can Google it, and they'll tell you where these viewfinders are, and you can go and see, the fall for the first time in color. And so I love this line on the viewfinder. And it says, our hope is that those who have never fully seen the true colorful beauty of Tennessee may experience it here for the first time and many more times in the future. Mark 5 moments. The coming to Jesus, the experiencing Jesus, the proclaiming Jesus, Mark 5 moments are, one, giving you a chance to see the beauty of God in your life for the first time. And so when that fades, and when your questions arise, and when your doubts come, you can go and remember that beauty over and over and over again. Mark 5 moments, on the other hand, are like this viewfinder in that other people get to show you this is what it looks like. Like, let's take away the blinders. Let's take away the stuff in your life where you aren't aware of what God is doing in your own life. You're not aware of the presence of God. Because in order for you to be able to talk about the presence of God, in order for you to be able to testify and tell people about it, you need to be able to recognize it yourself. Like, for me to really fully be able to tell you about the beauty of a Tennessee fall, I've got to be able to see it through the right lens. You just get to experience it. The fullest expression of a Christian life and a follower of Christ is being able to acknowledge, one, and be able to see the things that are going on in your life, and then articulate, to be able to say and tell about the things that are going on in your life in the presence of God, and to be able to acknowledge and articulate the things that how God and Jesus are at work in your life. Mark 5 moments are these beautiful moments in which you got a chance to experience the presence of God, so why wouldn't you share it? Why wouldn't you share that? So my challenge to you is this, because I thought long and hard about it. My challenge to you is this. First, I'm going to have Chamberlain come back up, if he's still here. Yeah, and he's going to sing one more song. And our challenge is this. During this song, I just want you to take a moment. You can sing, or you can think, you can sit in your chair, you can pray, whatever it is. I want you to take a moment and realize and try to find a time in your life where God showed up, where the presence of God was in there. I know of one for sure. If you were at Impact 2019, that last night at Impact, that's one for real. Like, the Holy Spirit was thick in that place. Like, it showed up. So that's the first part of the challenge. The second part is, at some point this week, whether with a friend, with a family member, that you're going to share this Mark 5 moment that you found. You're going to talk to somebody about it. And the other challenge is to make sure you put yourself in a space that you hear it from somebody else. Ask your parents. I heard an incredible Mark 5 moment this week from one of your parents. And if you're like, I don't really know, I don't really feel comfortable coming to tell somebody, tell me, because I love these moments. And it will strengthen my faith, hopefully as much as it strengthens yours. So Chamberlain, if you'll lead one more song, and then I've got one more thing.
Just as I am, without one plea, but that thy blood was shed for me, and that thou bidst me come to thee, O Lamb of God, I come, just as I am, and waiting not to rid my soul of one dark blot, to thee whose blood can cleanse each spot, O Lamb of God, I come. I come broken to be mended. I come wounded to be healed. I come desperate to be rescued. I come empty to be filled. I come guilty to be pardoned by the blood of Christ the Lamb. And I'm welcomed with open arms, praise God, just as I am, just as I am. I would be lost, but mercy and grace my freedom bought, and now to glory in your cross, O Lamb of God, I come. I come broken to be mended. I come wounded to be healed. I come desperate to be rescued. I come empty to be filled. I come guilty to be pardoned by the blood of Christ the Lamb. And I'm welcomed with open arms, praise God, just as I am. I come broken to be mended. I come wounded to be healed. I come desperate to be rescued. I come empty to be filled. I come guilty to be pardoned by the blood of Christ the Lamb. And I'm welcomed with open arms, praise God, just as I am. Praise God, just as I am.
Thanks, Chamberlain. So we need to find and hear Mark 5 moments, because these are the things that in our doubts and our questions we're going to hold on to, and it's going to strengthen our faith. It's going to strengthen the others. So find somebody else and use them as a viewfinder as you try to see the beauty of the presence of God for the first time and for many, many, many more times. And so I'll say to you what Jesus said to the demon-possessed man: go and tell how much the Lord has done for you and the mercy he's had on you. And I pray, my prayer this week and forever and ever, and as long as I'm here for many years to come, that you will tell how much Jesus has done for you, and all the people will be amazed. Good night, and thank you for joining us at True North. I love each and every one of you.